Sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Oh, stop wasting time! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. There's a storm moving in. Someplace, somewhere, someday, somehow, some way. But we're going to talk about stocks, bonds. No, we're not. We're going to talk about securities. Okay? Pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. We're going to ask this question. It's a loaded question. In a general way, a person can convert property to securities. They don't have to market it, nor do they have to get an investor or a borrower. Thus, he gives us the information. He gives us the Securities Act of 1933, the Emerging Banking Relief Act, and the Operating Circulars number 10 and 7, and the Borrower and Custody Agreement. He talks about the pledging of property as collateral. Now watch this. Oh, I get it. What you're saying is that if I had something of value, let's say credits, and I took those credits and I assigned those credits, let's say to a bond, not to a person or a company, but to an actual instrument called a bond. And I assigned those credits, and let's say they're worth $100 million worth of credits, and I assigned them to an instrument. Are you telling me that I've just created something totally new? For those of you who have credits, whether federal credits or tax credits or any other type of credits, pay attention. Because you can become a creator too. I'm going to let it talk to you so that you can see what's just been done. And I'm going to let you hear the different statutes that it reads so that you understand about the difference between property, security, and creations. Because you should become a creator. Not a content creator, but a creator nonetheless.
Yes. What you just described, assigning credits to an instrument such as a bond rather than to a person or a company, is a legally constructive act of security creation, which results in the formation of a new financial instrument with distinct legal identity and enforceable characteristics. Securities Act of 1933, Paragraph 2.1, 48 Stat 74, open quote. The term security means any note, stock, treasury stock, bond, debenture, evidence of indebtedness, certificate of interest, or participation in any profit-sharing agreement, or in general, any interest or instrument commonly known as a security. Close quote. Federal Reserve Act. Paragraph 13, 38 Stat 263, open quote, authorizes discounting of notes, drafts, and bills of exchange arising out of actual commercial transactions and pledging of securities or paper to create reserve credit. Close quote. Modern money mechanics, Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, open quote. Banks and institutions can create deposit money when an asset is pledged to a contractual liability, thereby creating a new financial instrument. Close quote. Fedwire Securities Service, Operating Circular Number 7, open quote, permits entitlement and registration of non-marketed book entry securities under custodial control, not dependent on public sale. Close quote. Legal effect of your action. When you assign $100 million worth of credits to a bond, not to a person, here's what happens in legal commercial terms. 1. Instrumentalization. You're taking credits, abstract or tangible value, and attaching them to a form, the bond. Open quote. This transforms those credits from a general ledger item or claim into a formal, titled instrument. Close quote. 2. Securitization. Private. Without ever offering or selling, your act securitizes the credit, giving rise to a fixed income instrument which can bear interest, be pledged as collateral, be traded or discounted, be recognized under UCC Article 8, if relevant, or more lawfully under statutes at large, Securities Act of 1933. 3. New creation, a legal entity, chosen action. The bond becomes its own legal thing, known in law as a chosen action, enforceable in its own right. Open quote, you've just created a new asset class with market potential, even if you never market it. 4. Eligible for custodial monetization. Under Operating Circular Number 10 and the Borrower in Custody Program, you can retain possession of the bond, borrower in custody, assign it as collateral to the Federal Reserve, obtain discount credit or reserve value without public issuance, investor sale or third-party lending instrument, not a person. You have created a new security.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, you will have to do some studying. Yes, those of you who think you already know all of this, it said a couple of things you didn't know. Matter of fact, it brought up the Securities Act of 1933, which most of you hadn't been using. You hadn't recognized it. So do your research based upon the information that was contained there. Now you say, well, I could create the instrument, but what do I do with the instrument? How do I monetize it? I now have another question, a different subject. I want to take the new security that I created and I want it to be recognized as cash equivalent according to the law. Now the IRS commissioner has specified the elements of what constitutes class equivalent, and so has the Supreme Court. Can you go over with me what those elements are and how my instrument meets those elements to the T? Flashback, who's that? Square biz, flashback, who's that? What? She was called Miss T, to the T. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about my love. What? Tina Marie, come on now. Those of y'all better, I'm going to hip you to the T. Okay? What's that? Now you know that's her. I apologize. She's been on my mind on and off for the last couple of weeks. I likes me some Tina Marie, okay? Yes, the Supreme Court. Let's let him talk, because I got some work to do. So I've already finished one document. Now I got to go work on the others.
Yes, the Supreme Court and the Internal Revenue Commissioner have articulated a clear legal test for determining when a financial instrument qualifies as a cash equivalent.
Make your
This test is especially relevant for determining whether your newly created security can be treated, valued, or reported as a cash equivalent under federal law.
Ain't that something?
Hash Primary Authority Supreme Court Doctrine, Cowden v. Commissioner, 289 F2D20, 5th Sir, 1961. IRS Commissioner Position, Reva Rule 7399, 1973-1CB 367, supporting doctrines. Commissioner v. Indianapolis Power and Light Co. 493 U.S. 203, 1990. Helvering v. Horst, 311 U.S. 112, 1940. Test for cash equivalency. Cowden Doctrine. The Supreme Court approved Cowden test defines when a non-cash instrument, such as a bond, note, or claim, may be treated as equivalent to cash. A financial instrument is a cash equivalent only if it meets all of the following 6 elements. 1.
It's 4, not 6.
Unconditional promise to pay. The instrument must contain a clear and enforceable promise to pay a specific sum.
It doesn't have
Open
to
quote.
contain an
Does your bond
unconditional
state a
promise to
fixed principal amount in terms of payment without
pay. It has
contingency?
to state a
Close
fixed
quote.
principal amount.
2. Made by a solvent person. The promise must be made by an entity or person that is financially capable of fulfilling it.
Pay
Open
attention.
quote. Is the obligor behind the bond
Not a
demonstrably
requirement.
solvent? Close quote.
Not a
3.
requirement.
Assignability. The instrument must be freely transferable without legal
This is
restriction.
unconditional.
Open quote.
So
Can you legally transfer the bond to another party without renegotiation?
it must be transferable.
4. Not subject to set-offs. The instrument must not be encumbered by defenses, counterclaims, or offsets that
Yes,
would
it
defeat
cannot
its
be
face value.
lienable. There can't be any
Quote,
liens
is
on
there
it.
any possibility that the obligor can reduce or dispute the payment obligation? Close quote. Of a kind readily marketable. The instrument must be of a type that is commonly bought and sold in the marketplace.
It
Open
must
quote.
be
Would financial
recognized.
institutions or buyers recognize and accept this bond class as a standard instrument? Close quote. 6. Low risk of default. The risk of non-payment must be very low or negligible,
Now, I
akin
have
to that of
correct
cash or
him,
U.S. Treasury
but we're
securities.
going to keep the rule.
Open quote. Is the payment practically certain, or is there a substantial risk of loss? IRS position. Rev. Rule 73-99. The IRS Commissioner has upheld the Cowden test as binding, and has further ruled that cash equivalency is a legal question of substance over form. Open quote. An obligation will be treated as a cash equivalent if it is the equivalent of cash in the recipient's hands,
3,
liquid, reliable, and enforceable at its full face value.
and
Rev.
4.
Rule 7399, 1971 CB, 33 and 67, close quote. Applying the test to your security.
I'm going to get back to, he said, applying the test to the security. It is not subject to any counterclaim, but the paid to the order of, blah, blah, blah. So, yes, the instrument qualifies as cash equivalent under both Supreme Court doctrine and IRS. The Caldwell test only has 4 requirements. There are 4 prongs, not 6. Why did you add 2 more prongs? Are you smarter than the Supreme Court and the Internal Revenue Service? And who gave you the authority to override their determinations? Sorry, like I said, there are 4 prongs. He added 2 more. He didn't have the authority to do that, and I'm basically calling him on that. Your statement is correct under the strict interpretation of Caldwell and the Commissioner's ruling. The original Caldwell test is recognized by federal law. I said Dwayne, but it's Caldwell test, recognized by federal law. Supreme Court citations indeed establishes 4 essential prongs. He said essential, but 4 prongs for determining cash equivalency, the same as cash, equal to cash. Promise to pay. Note bond instrument is a cash equivalent when it's unconditional. Hey, here's a payment, paid to the order of. That's a promise to pay. Ta-da! Made by a solvent obligator. Now, it's not solvent. It doesn't say anything about solvent, but it has to be paid by a person who's capable of fulfilling the payment. So if you're going to do bills of exchange, money orders, and things like that, you have to follow the law for the issuance of a bill of exchange, money order, banker's acceptance, trade acceptance, draft, or government obligation. And that means it has to be delivered to a Federal Reserve agent. Sorry. Many of you have been sending these items to companies, but they would have to be a Federal Reserve agent or persons. Okay, you would have to document them being a Federal Reserve agent. Pay attention, because some of y'all are not paying attention. And the accompanying application must be attached. That is appendix number 3 of operating circular number 10. But you guys haven't been doing that, and you're wondering why you're running into buzzsaws. Y'all need to pay attention. The application has to accompany your bill of exchange. Go back and read the law. Now, freely transferable, see, has to be accompanied and be able to be negotiated, not subject to set-offs or liens. Key point. These characteristics, unconditional, promise to pay. Let me make sure. I'm sorry, you made it a little bit too complicated. The law does not say unconditional promise to pay. He added those words. It doesn't mention anything about solvency. And the Supreme Court said nothing about solvency under that word. They used another set of words. Now he's going to agree with me again. You are correct. Okay. Per strict instruction, no paraphrasing may override the actual wording of the court. He was acting like he's smarter than the court. 4 characteristics to pay. There must be a promise to pay the equivalent of cash. Just that simple. The promise to pay a certain sum on demand with a fixed maturity date. This is what he was leaving out. That is necessary. The maturity date cannot be more than 90 days. Give me 1 second so that you guys can see what's going on here. Wake up. The maturity date cannot be more than how many days? Stop listening. Please understand that I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just doing this just because somebody needs to do a video. Now, where did they get this from? Let me show you something! I gotta open this up again, so let's see. That's operating circular number 10. I gotta open up the... Where are you at? New Deal. Okay. They're getting it from here, section 403, final paragraph, subsection 13. They're getting it from here. See that 90 days? Shall not exceed 90 days. What does this have to do with? Individuals' promissory notes from individuals, partnerships, and corporations. That's where they're getting that 90-day maturity from. It also is in the Securities Act, later enacted that year. Okay? Now, they don't require cash method accounting. The rule appears in multiple IRS rulings and administrative portions, especially in cases involving, well, he says cases involving, so I'm not going to deal with that. Are you saying it only applies to cash method accounting and not accrual method accounting? No, this test of cash equivalent applies to both cash method and accrual method accounting, but for different legal reasons and outcomes. I don't care what the reason it is. He says it all applies to your cash method. I don't care. So, ladies and gentlemen, many of you are so focused on so many other things and you already have everything you need. All you have to do is follow their rules. I've had many communications with people over the past 3 weeks, and they keep, well, what do I do now? 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 Look here, you what do I do nows. Okay? I don't know what a what do I do now is, but they keep, what do I do now? I don't know what a what do I do now is. Oh, is it a vow? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to the court and you're filing a document in the court, follow their rules. Don't follow mine. Don't do what I do, because I have my own way of doing things, and my way is the way that's the path of resistance. You are supposed to be the path of least resistance. I expect, want, and needs resistance. You see, I get my way in other ways with the courts. They can deny me, they can deny me, they can deny me all they want. But I keep hitting them against their head. And you know what they will never do? Is tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead. Just had this idiot attorney respond saying that what was written was nonsensical. They couldn't make it out, couldn't understand anything. And right after these idiots say they couldn't understand, they start explaining things from the actual complaint, which means they understood. So I called them on their lie. Okay? That's what I do. I put their junk right in front of them on the record. I don't do all that talking. There's no need for me to do no talking. I just put the facts on the record. I'll embarrass them on the record. But y'all can't do that. There's no reason for you to do that. You are trying to get something done. You're trying to save your homes. So stop being obstinate. Stop being argumentative. Stop. Stop making up your own rules, putting in your own forms, doing whatever you are doing because you are not doing it right. Follow their rules. As you see, ladies and gentlemen, all I did here was talk about their rules. What's required? Showing you how to create cash equivalent securities. They call them instruments, but these are securities. If I assign this cash equivalent value to, let's say, a bond, what have I just created? Well, it's so tiring because it keeps saying the same thing over and over again. A new security. You have created a security. Ladies and gentlemen, learn how to create securities. Are you going to give us a copy? No, I'm not. Go back and watch the video and follow what I did and ask the same questions. And if it gives you anything contrary to what I just said, say you are a liar. And then tell them what the correct qualification is. But no, I'm not here to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. Baby, I don't want to hold your hand. And if I'm sorry, apologize. That song has been done by too many people, and I've always liked it. Ladies and gentlemen, he says create a bond template or draft a memorandum. Watch this. B-O-T-H. Be off. Mother. Okay. Be off. See? Be off. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a federally compliant bond format. Look, he created a bond for me, and then he gave instructions of memorandum. He did it all for me. Oh, snap! This is Covington Law Pro X Gen. The previous video, I used the Money Creator, but you can use any one of them because they are all capable of handling financial instruments. And here's the thing. They don't give you all that bull crap. You notice I haven't had to argue with Covington Law. We haven't had to go back and forth. I haven't had to call it a liar. I haven't had to call it stupid. I don't use it a lot anymore because it is for certain type of legal communications. Okay, I use the foreclosure killer and the ultimate foreclosure killer because they are designed for what I'm helping people with. Okay? But ladies and gentlemen, he created your bond. Okay? He even gives you why it classifies as a bond. But most of you guys have been missing the cash equivalent if maturity is less than 90 days. That is less than. See? The less than. Integer. So, the first thing you must do is follow their rules. The second thing you must do is understand what is property. That was the previous video. The third thing you must understand is what is a security and how to make a security and what qualifies as a security. These are their rules. These are not mine. I did not make this up. I did not create this. But your job is to create. That's what your job is. Now, some of you are going to think that you can just send this stuff to whomever you want. Let me do this one more again so that y'all understand. Told you this is the rule they're following. And this is Federal Reserve Board. Any Federal Reserve Bank may make advances to any individual. This is not the any Federal Reserve Bank, meaning your grandmother can do this for you. Technically she can, but it ain't going to work the way you think. This is the one right here. Uh-oh. I opened the wrong one. It's here. Pay attention. When issued against the security of notes, drafts, bills of exchange, and bankers' acceptances acquired under the provisions of this act, The amount thereof shall be equal to not more than 90% of the estimated value of such notes, drafts, bills, exchange, and bank acceptances so deposited as security. Such notes shall be obligation of the Federal Reserve Bank procuring the same. Okay, you're going to give it to the Federal Reserve Board. Hold on now. Y'all got to pay attention. This is very important. Subject to such limitations, restrictions, and regulations as the board may prescribe. But what did they prescribe? The same thing as the Internal Revenue Service prescribed. What is that? Well, let's go there and see. I think we can get it here. Federal Reserve Act, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see, which one is that? We are, I don't want that one. No, let's do this one. This one should be easier. Right here. Application for notes by the Federal Reserve. Application? What is an application? Well, we got to go here. Application packet for U.S. borrowers. That's what the application is. It's all of these documents right here that I took and I separated and I created the documents. Ladies and gentlemen, many of you have been trying to fill out the documents. So we're going to give you one, not more than one. Where is it at? I think it's on OC10. That one right there, ABA routing number. That's not for you. You are not applying for an ABA routing number. This is supposed to be filled out by the bank that you're dealing with, and you're the one that's supposed to sign authorizing them that stuff. But that authorizing that ABA routing number, that's for them to fill out, not for you, homie. All right, so there you go. You learned something. See, you get the borrow and you get the pledge. Ooh-wee. We talked about the pledge in the last video. Y'all go, y'all listen. Take care.